This coming Monday, Sunday night through Monday night, we will be celebrating the 3,333rd anniversary of the giving of the Torah. Exactly 3,333 years ago, we will have stood at the bottom of the mountain of Sinai, and the heavens would open up, and Har Sinai was filled with smoke and fire. And the fire within Har Sinai looked like a burning cauldron, and the smoke went up to the very heavens. And the sounds and the thunder and the lightning were overwhelming, and the people were fearful. The entire world cowered in fear, wondering what was going to happen. This was only a few weeks after the splitting of the sea, at which point the rabbis tell us all of the waters of the world split. Floods covered the highest mountains. In fact, there is historic record of those incredible events in all of the ancient civilizations, from China to Europe to Central America. The giving of the Torah was even more frightening. The rabbis tell us that God picked up the mountain like a barrel over our heads and said, if you accept the Torah, fine. If not, this will be the place of your burial. Very, very strange vision. The day of the giving of the Torah is likened to the wedding of God to Israel. How is it possible that on the day of your wedding, you take out a shotgun and you threaten to blow the brains out of your bride if she doesn't take the ring? So a long time ago, I realized that this was an euphemism. This was meant to be understood on a different plane. The mountain, what does it represent? A mountain represents Abraham, because Abraham is called a mountain. And Isaac is called a field. And Jacob is called a home. The quality, the emotional quality for which Abraham was famous is Avraham Ohavi, Abraham my beloved. It's the quality of love, which is like a mountain. A mountain makes things into big and important things, despite the fact it could be very, very small. A child who loves a little toy loves it so much that he's willing to smash everything else unless he gets that little toy exactly the way he wants it. Because love makes everything greater, look greater, more important, more powerful, more beautiful, because of the love that's there. And that's symbolic of the mountain, and that's symbolic of the quality of love. So what happened on Mount Sinai was God showed his love like a barrel. What does it mean, a barrel? It was all-encompassing. The love was all around us. We couldn't escape the love that God showed. And the love was so overwhelming that we felt if we would reject this love, we would never have another opportunity. This was now or never. This was life itself. If we were to reject it, we would lose the important purpose of our lives. And so we had to accept it. And that's the meaning, the secret meaning of he held the mountain over them like a barrel, the mountain being God's love. I once told this to a student in MSU who told it to a non-Chassid. And the non-Chassid said, "You've been hanging around Rabbi Bergstein too much." The student liked the interpretation, but the non-Chassid didn't. But every idea in the Talmud, every idea in the Agarata, is reflective of a deeper concept. And if you only look at the superficial, the extraneous, it's like you're eating a beautiful fruit, but only eating the peel. Can you imagine if somebody only ate the peel of the cantaloupe, the peel of the orange, and never got to the fruit? And that's what happens when you don't study the Pnimiyus HaTorah, the inward elements of the Torah. We go back to what I said about the 45. Tragically, we lost 45 of our most beautiful members of Klal Yisrael. Each one of them a remarkable gem. And there is nothing good to say about the loss. Because as beautiful as they lived, and as beautiful as the circumstances surrounding the end of their lives, the end of the day, wouldn't it have been better if they had lived and loved and created families and created new ideas, gave comfort and spirit to other people, encouraged other people, brought people closer to Yiddishkeit? Wouldn't it have been better? You say, well, that's God's choice. It's true, but we can't fathom God's choice. But the fact that 45 of our most beautiful faces, our most beautiful members of our society were lost, indicates we're missing something. We're missing the 45. And I said in the previous video that the 45 represents the holy name of God as it's written, Yud, Yud Vav Dalet, which is equal to 20. And then there's a Hey, Hey Aleph, which is equal to 6, 26. Vav is spelled Vav Aleph Vav. Vav Aleph Vav is equal to 13. Vav is 6, and Aleph is 1, and Vav is 6, together is 13. 13 plus 26 make 39. And then there's the last Hey, Hey Aleph. That's 6. Together, 39 and 6 is 45. And that's the secret of the holy name of God as God appears in the highest world, in the world of Atzilus, in the realm of Keter, the crown. And this name of God, which is equal to 45, is the pathway of life. That is the channel of life to all of the worlds. All the world receives life from the 45. From God, as God is number 45. And we might have forgotten about studying and learning and living with God as God is, not as we want God to be. There was a chassid who lost all of his money. He was an extremely wealthy chassid, very good-hearted, and he promised many orphans and many relatives that he would personally pay for their weddings. And when he lost all of his money, they couldn't get married. They didn't have what to pay a caterer with. They didn't have what to pay the rent with. They couldn't buy anything. They couldn't buy any clothes. And so he came to the Balatanya, the first Chabad Rebbe, and he fainted and he said, Rebbe, why? I understand I don't deserve wealth and I'm willing to live a life of poverty, but why should all of these other families suffer? They relied on me for their weddings and I can't give them what they need. And he cried. And the Rebbe cold-bloodedly said, you talk about what you need, what you're needed for, you don't talk about it all. When he heard those words from the Rebbe, very straightforward, his focus had totally been on what he earned. That defined him. His money, his ability to help others, that defined his role as far as he could see. But that was wrong. It's what he's needed for. What are you needed for here in this world? To make money? No, you're needed here to be aware of God and to make others aware of God. And how do you do that? By studying and meditating and davening and permeating your consciousness with the awareness that God is here and everything is by divine providence. And when he heard those words, he fainted. Took him out. They revived him. And for 2 weeks, all he did was study the deepest parts of the Torah and pray to God and forgot about everything else. After 2 weeks, the Rebbe called him in. That's enough, he said. You have to continue living. Here's a loan. Go to the market, certain big city, and whatever you buy, you'll sell at a great profit. You'll pay me back, and you'll be able to continue as you did before. He became even wealthier than he was before. But he was missing the 45. He was missing the awareness of God. Not the awareness of God that God can do miracles and does wondrous things, and God supports the great scholars, and God gives blessings to the poor, and he heals the sick, and so on and so forth. Those are wonderful things. But that's not what we're created for. We're created to know God and to tell people about God. The Barditchever told his father-in-law, he spent 2 years in Mizrich, and he knows there's a God. He says, you spent 2 years in exile, and that's all you know is that there's a God? He calls in Mary, the servant. Mary, is there a God? And she says, of course. And so his father says, see, even Mary, the servant, knows that there's a God. So the Barditchever, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, said, yeah, she says, but I know. We all can say, but do we really know? Do we really feel? This is what is missing. What is missing is the study of Hasidus and Kabbalah. Hasidus is more potent than Kabbalah, because the Kabbalah creates a bridge to God, but the bridge is a separation. And Hasidus says there is no separation. You and the bridge and God, you and the Torah and God are all one. God is within you, and you reflect God. If you were to really think about who you really are and what your powers are, you realize that you're parallel to everything that exists in the cosmos. Now we're facing the giving of the Torah, and it says that the Torah was given on the 3rd month to a 3-tiered people, Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim, on the 3rd month, and there are 3 levels of Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, the Torah and the prophets, and the holy writings. So this is all in 3s. I want to give you another 3. The Mesilas Yesharim says that the purpose of man and the purpose of giving of the Torah is to receive Olam Haba, is to get the world to come. The whole purpose of Torah, of the study of Torah, the whole purpose of doing the mitzvahs is to become knowledgeable of God and the world to come. And that's why we're here, to get the world to come. So that's opinion number 1. Opinion number 2 is the Rambam. The Rambam says we receive the Torah as a guidebook to teach us how to live and how to control our hearts. Every mitzvah is directed to developing part of our midos, our personal traits, our personal emotional expressions, our thoughts, our words, our actions, the way we react and the way we do things. The Torah is perfect because people have to be you don't get rid of your emotions, you control your emotions. You become a master of your emotions. Not that you don't have emotions. A person has to have a sense of self. A person has to have a sense of belonging, a sense of happiness. Just that it has to be l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. To destroy oneself is to become extreme. That's not what Torah is all about. The purpose of the Torah is to become a master of your emotions. Now, why do you need to become a master of your emotion? Because when you're a master of your emotion, then your mind can be clear and understand the most profound ideas. If you do not become a master of your emotions, you will always err when it comes to profound ideas. That's why Rambam says there were no prophets among the Greek philosophers, because they did not strive to control and to be masters of their emotions. They only strove to use the depths of their minds. And therefore they were never able to penetrate into the mysteries of the unknown, which is beyond the physical world. To reach the understanding of the physical world, you have to become a master of self. And only then, when you begin to understand the world, understand the secrets of the world, those secrets will open up to you because you've mastered your heart, and then you become a master of your brain, which allows you to understand God. And that's the purpose. The purpose is the understanding of God. That's number 2. Number 3 is the Hasidic approach. God came down the mountain to reveal God's self in the mountain. What happened was a fusion, a unity between God, the world, and man. Through the Torah, the physical world, the physical human being, the physical mountain, all of the world became one with God through the study and the fulfillment of the mitzvahs of the Torah. So the purpose of the giving of the Torah is to bring God into this world and make the world one with God. So according to Hasidus, the purpose is not for your olam haba. The purpose is not for you to become wise, become a master of self, and become wise in understanding in the most divine ideas, divine concepts. It's all true. But the purpose of all of that is to have God in this world, to make the world a dwelling place for God, so that God and man and the world become one through the Torah. That's the purpose. The purpose is transforming our world to make it a better world, a good world, a place that God would want to be in. And those are the 3 approaches. And that's the Am Tlisoi, the 3-tiered levels of the Jewish people and how they approach the Torah. And all 3 are true. And all 3 are really one together.